C.S. Lewis, author of Narnia if you didn't know, considered Christian morality to be important on three different dimensions. Firstly, to ensure a harmonious equilibrium. Secondly, to force productive kinship in a developing and good society. And last, to stay in good standings to God and successfully ascertain entry into heaven. For the sake of argument, let's assume God is dead. Let's assume we killed him, and objective morality does not exist. The moral axiological philosopher or psychologist attempts to distinguish and highlight different paradigms on human conduct, define the ethical actions of people, and ultimately try to delineate and popularize concepts of right and wrong. To Nietzsche himself, who's not a moral philosopher, the question of morality was an Ouroboros and almost futile endeavour. His esoteric, anti-realistic views on morality highlighted a need for humanity to transcend God, to renounce their false consciousness and transvalue our perspectives on suffering and sin. He argues a long-lasting master-slave morality dynamic that was adapted by Roman Christians and Judeo-Christians. The master's paradigm on good and bad reflected relative usefulness and nobility, with a greater emphasis on heroism and strength. The slaves reactively constructed a moral system of their own, forsaking the views of their overseers to focus on the powerless. They placed greater worth on victimizing virtues based on good and evil, the latter marginally representing all that their masters believed. We are compelled to perceive the world through our respective internal moral goggles. There is no universal bad, nor unanimous good. Forever will there be a dissenter. Therein, crime will forever occur. As Durkheim asserts towards the beginning of his 1893 The Division of Labour, each moralist has his own particular doctrine, and the diversity of doctrines proves the flimsiness of the so-called objective value. Whilst we continue to define the nature of something human, such as ethics, we're consequently likely to support and propagate the oppositional view, the inhuman, as one might call it. Not that either is right, morality is relative, and evidently malleable over time. Psychodynamic theorists understand human morality as depictive of the superego. They argue the id to fundamentally manifest as antisocial and hedonistic. Therefore, an underdeveloped superego would fail to inhibit such rudimentary yet radical yearnings. In 1946, John Bowlby found maternal deprivation to lead to a higher latency of criminal behaviour. This is likely due to such an underdeveloped superego. In 1964, Hans Eysenck argued a higher scoring of extroversion, psychoticism and neuroticism to correlate with a higher criminal likelihood. This is due to a higher requirement of cortical arousal, a more aggressive or passive personality, and a volatile mentality. Through socialization, particularly as a child, the individual develops so as to not require immediate gratification. Unconditioned, unsocialized personalities are linked to high E and N scores because of a nervous system less susceptible to conditioning. For the cognitive psychologists Piaget and Kohlberg, moral development relies on the individual's capacity to advance beyond multiple levels of cognitive reasoning regarding egoism and their formation of theory of mind. Kohlberg in 1932 argued children to develop the morality of cooperation around the age of 10, beforehand, while the child possessed a heteronymous paradigm on morality. Concepts of right and wrong were categorized dependent on the child's conditioning, primarily driven by an avoidance of punishment. Now at age 10 and possessing autonomy, the child can take into account various factors in order to barter and cooperate. For Piaget, moral development finishes once the adolescent is capable of ideal reciprocation over exact. That is, the capacity to view the world through another's eyes and respond differently depending on context. In 1958, Kohlberg then refined Piaget's crucial, yet not entirely realized thoughts on morality. He devised 3 levels of morality developed by a human, with each level consisting of 2 stages each. At the pre-conventional level, the child operates much like Piaget's heteronymous child, that is, constructive of right and wrong paradigms based on obedience and punishment. At the second pre-conventional stage, we have a delineation of the child's realization that different individuals can possess different ideals themselves. The adolescent then reaches the conventional level of morality. Within the first stage, the human's morality model is malleable, formed through conformity and compliance with standards internalized in order to retain functioning interpersonal relationships. During the second stage, the individual's internal compass is swayed by social order. According to Kohlberg, approximately 10 to 15% of individuals are capable of progressing to the level of post-conventional morality. Few devise moral rules for themselves, with the majority preferring the conventional level. The post-conventionalist renounces universal principles in favour of a unique set. They understand that there are times when certain moral dilemmas must be overturned for a specific consequence or result to in turn occur. Therefore, morality could be considered somewhat of an imagined construct, an ingrained set of principles we uniquely adhere to which, while idiosyncratic, are still vastly different to one another. Case in point, which is worse than the other, murdering a parent or child? There is no completely right answer to these radically open-ended questions, but the differences in our respective morality gauges can range from the radical to the minute. Offenders are human. Any wicked and depraved acts they committed are only wicked and depraved because we, the empathetic spectators, deem them to be. These acts are human. Every act committed by a human is human. Nonetheless, for a working and functionally healthy society to prosper, such practitioners of mildly unaccepted bad are to be detained, conditioned, and rehabilitated, if not only for the comfortable maintenance of a harmonious civilization,